Welcome back to Man with a Wok, where we're diving into the heart of Singapore's culinary scene right from our very own kitchens. I'm Kwoklyn, and in this episode we're celebrating the sizzling flavours and diverse dishes of Singapore's famous hawker centres. These bustling hubs of activity are where culture collide and flavours flourish, offering a taste of Singapore's multicultural heritage. So join me as we recreate some of the most iconic and beloved dishes from the Lion City. Let's heat up the wok and bring the sizzle of Singapore to our homes. Our culinary adventure begins with the quintessential Singaporean dish, Hainanese Chicken Rice. This seemingly simple dish is a marvel of flavour and texture, featuring succulent chicken paired with fragrant rice, all served with a tangy chilli sauce. The secret lies in the preparation of the chicken and the rice, cooked with ginger and bamboo leaves. Join me as we master this dish, bringing a piece of Singapore soul food to your table. My very first trip to East Asia, my dad took me around all of the street food vendors. We had dim sum, roast duck, char siu, fish balls on sticks, you name it, it was available. And with each of the 3 dishes that I'm going to share with you today, you're going to be able to recreate those street food flavours right in your own kitchen. To begin, I've washed my chicken in cold water. I've now just got to dry this off ever so slightly. And now we need to season. You want to ensure that every single piece of this bird has a little sprinkling of salt. And we're just going to massage this seasoning into the bird, ensuring that every single centimetre has got a little bit of that delicious salt all over. Chicken seasoned, now to poach. I'm going to grab the largest pot I have, and I'm going to pop my chicken into this massive pot. And to that, I'm going to add some ginger and some spring onions. And I'm going to fill with cold water, just dry the bottom off. And then we'll get this onto my stove. And we'll bring this up to the boil. Now on to make the spicy chili sauce. For this, we're going to use a little bit of sugar, some chilies, some ginger, garlic, and a little bit of lime juice. And we will finish it off just with a little seasoning of salt. I'm just going to grab my blender. So I'll just chop my ginger down. And then to that, I'll add my garlic. So just roughly chop as well. My chilies, I'll just get rid of the stems. So I've got a little squeeze of lime juice as well going in. Then we have some sugar. And add just the tiniest pinch of salt. Now on goes my lid. Are we ready? Okay, and just to loosen this, I'm just going to add a little tiny touch of water as well. I'm just going to keep on giving it a shake just to make sure that any of the big pieces that are stuck on the top get blended down as well. I want a smooth paste. lovely, actually. That's not going to be big enough. I'm just going to grab myself a sauce bowl. And there's my dip for my chicken. Just give it a quick taste. So it's limey, very spicy. There's that whack of garlic coming through and the ginger. The sweetness is ever so very subtle. But with this poached chicken, it's going to be amazing on top of my seasoned rice as well. I'm just going to remove some of the impurities that are just forming on top of the chicken as it's poaching. And we're nearly up to the boil as well. Once we come up to the boil, we're going to let it sit for about 50 minutes, which will be plenty, as we don't want to overcook our chicken and make it too tough. We want a nice tender poached chicken. I've just flipped my chicken over. I'm going to give it about 20 minutes and I'll flip the chicken over again. I just want to make sure that it's completely submerged under the water. I can now turn this down to a medium high and it can just sit and poach away now for around about 40 to 50 minutes. The seasoned rice. For this, I have some chicken stock, some garlic oil, which is my own homemade garlic oil, just some Thai fragrant jasmine rice, which is just your long grain rice that we like to eat with this. I'm going to have some ginger, which I'm going to grate, and then I'm going to fry this off in the garlic oil. And these are bamboo leaves. You can use pandan leaves, and I personally love the flavour of bamboo leaves. This is what we wrap our sticky rice in. So I'm just going to grab my big pan and we'll get that on medium high. Now to this, I'm going to add roughly a tablespoon of my garlic oil. You can, of course, use raw garlic in this. I find it overpowers the dish a little bit. I like the subtle background of the garlic oil. And we're going to grate this ginger, which will then gently fry off in that aromatic oil. And then we'll just carefully put this into my warming oil. So at the moment, I don't want the oil on, I don't want the heat up too high, I don't want to burn the ginger. So I've turned it down to a medium now. And now that it's nice and aromatic, I'm going to add my rice. Now you can wash your rice first. Again, there are lots of there are lots of different reasons why we think we wash the rice. The rice is already washed. You can obviously get rid of some of that extra starch. I want this to be nice and sticky, so I haven't washed my rice for this occasion. So in goes my dry rice. And I'm just going to infuse every single grain with that garlic oil and ginger. Now if you want to come and have a quick look in, you can see that all of the rice is glistening with that oil and ginger mixture. Now to this, 2 cups of rice to 4 cups of chicken stock. But I will do the dip test again in a second. And we'll just fan this out so we've got one level layer of rice. And be careful because this will be hot now. But I will just quickly dip my finger in. Yeah, and that's the perfect amount. So I'm just going to turn my heat up ever so slightly to a medium high. And I'm going to let this come up to the boil. As that's coming up to the boil, I'm going to drop in my bamboo leaves, which can literally just sit on the top of this rice. Just going to wait about 10 minutes now for the water to evaporate or to be absorbed by the rice, and then we'll come back before we pop the lid on. All of the stock now has nearly been absorbed. I'm just going to pop my lid on. Turn this down to very, very low for about another 5 minutes, then switch the heat off altogether. I'm going to flip my chicken over. It's had so far about 20 minutes, and we're going to continue to cook this for about another half an hour. I've patiently waited and my chicken is now cool. It's been chopped into bite-sized pieces. My rice is ready and warm. Look at those bamboo leaves. We just remove these from the top. They've done their thing now. They've flavoured that seasoned rice. And we'll just gently loosen each grain. My Hainanese poached chicken with seasoned rice, with ginger, chicken stock, bamboo leaves, and this amazing dipping sauce that we created. Now, the proof is in the eating. You can see how juicy and tender that is, and it's still warm. It's so soft. As the old adage goes, head down, mouth open and scoop. Hainanese Chicken Rice transports those who enjoy it to the bustling hawker centres of Singapore from the very comfort of their own homes. Next up, we're tackling Char Kway Teow, a stir-fried noodle dish that's a staple in Singaporean hawker centres. This dish is all about wok hei, or breath of the wok, giving that unmistakable charred flavour, with a mix of flat rice noodles, shrimp, eggs and bean sprouts, all tossed in a deliciously dark and sweet sauce. Char Kway Teow is a flavour-packed dish that perfectly represents Singapore's melting pot of cultures. Flat rice noodles have been on the East Asian dinner table for centuries, and you can even buy them from the street food hawkers in Singapore. This one is a little bit special. It has, I think, East Asians' most favourite ingredient, which is the Chinese lapchung sausage and king prawns. These are fresh rice noodles. You can, of course, use dried. We're also going to use some bean sprouts, some spring onions, egg, of course, egg. East Asians use egg in pretty much all of their cooking. The chili oil is an optional extra, but I think it does add that little sort of like spicy kick at the end, which is going to be lovely. Of course, we've got some grated garlic, lime juice. You tend to find that outside of China and Hong Kong, especially in Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, they zing things up with lime juice, and I love it. We're going to start off by making our sauce. Now, we have 3 different varieties of soy sauce going into this one, and I'm going to talk about each one very quickly for you now. These two may not look similar, but one is obviously dark and a little bit runny, and the other one is dark but sticky. This is Chinese dark soy sauce, and this is the keycap sweet soy sauce. This one's got added molasses into it. I'm going to grab my spatula and we'll start off with this sticky one first, and you can see how gloopy that is, but that's going to offer that sweetness and stickiness to the dish. We can now add our Chinese dark soy sauce. This has just been fermented for a little bit longer, and it's a little bit sweeter, just like the keycap. And of course we have the light soy sauce, which is the saltiness, and this is for seasoning. To that, we're going to add some oyster sauce, which are just oysters which have been stewed right down to create a sauce, and a little bit of sugar, and we're just going to add just a tiny drizzle of water as well, and then we'll give all of this a stir. So this sauce is going to be sweet, it's going to be salty, it's going to have a massive umami kick. Now, to just prep the last couple of ingredients, I have some spring onions, which will cook the whites first, And then we'll pop the greens in towards the end. And then Chinese sausage. And I smile when I say Chinese sausage. As a child, I would literally get a pot of rice, put it on, throw in 2 or 3 of these Chinese sausages, and that would be my dinner. It's not the most healthiest of dinners, but it was probably one of the most tastiest dinners you could ever wish to eat. I, in fact, had Chinese sausage the other night for dinner. I tend to find that when I'm cooking rice noodles, sometimes they're forgiving and they're gonna play ball and they won't stick. Other times they stick like mad. So I thought I'd use my biggest wok and then I can just scrape through and hopefully keep things moving, but we'll see how it goes. You can see my wok is smoking already. So a little spray of oil and in goes my grated garlic. And straight away, I'm gonna throw in my lapchong. I just need to make sure that this sausage is cooked all the way through before we throw anything else in. And you can see by having a larger wok as well, it's got a nice big wide flat bottom, I can really move the ingredients around and spread things out. I'm just going to keep it moving just for a second because I don't want the garlic to burn. I don't mind a little bit of caramelization, but definitely not burning. In go my second aromat, which is my spring onion whites. And as the sausage cooks, it becomes more translucent. And there's quite a lot of fat in Chinese sausage, and that fat will start to melt as it cooks down. Okay, we're nearly there with that. To this now, I'm going to add my king prawns. A little bit wet actually. Let me just dry those off. So just get rid of any of that excess water. And I just cook my prawns until they go a nice pink. My temperature's on about a medium high. And we give our sauce a quick stir, just to make sure that that sugar hasn't settled on the bottom. And then in go my fresh rice noodles. Now when we cook this kind of food, especially the flat rice noodles, we talk about wok hei. Wok hei is that natural patina, burny kind of taste that you get in a carbon steel wok. You can achieve this at home just by letting some of that ingredient caramelize before we get started. So just like I put the garlic in at the very, very beginning along with the Chinese sausage, that starts to caramelize. That caramelization is going to give that smoky flavor to the dish. And because the sauce is in there now, we can turn the heat up ever so slightly. Again, I don't want things to burn, but I am trying to achieve that smoky, burny kind of flavor, just a slight tinge of that smoky flavor. I can throw in my spring onion whites, and my spring onion greens even. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the well in this massive wok, and in go my eggs. And I'm just letting those eggs just sit there for a second, just to set. And then we'll give everything a really good mix. And it's at this point I can throw in my bean sprouts. And the bean sprouts just need to warm through ever so slightly. And I'm just going to add a little tiny pinch of white pepper because I'm using the bean sprouts. Off goes the heat. I'll just get my lime ready for squeezing in a second. Right then, now to serve. Now you don't need to be too fancy with this. Remember, this is a street food hawker special. And it's all about the flavours and the textures and that wok hei, that little bit of caramelization that we got from in the garlic at the very beginning. We can add our lime, which we're going to squeeze over the top just before we eat. And of course, we have our chili sauce. Remember, this is optional, guys, but we just add a little fleck of chili sauce just to finish that dish off. And there we have it. My flat rice noodles, eaten pretty much daily in an East Asian household. Char Kway Teow is a delightful dish that showcases the beauty of simple ingredients, coming together under high heat to create something truly special. To round off our Singaporean feast, we're diving into the spicy, coconutty goodness of Laksa. This Peranakan dish is a rich, creamy noodle soup that's bursting with flavour, thanks to a potent spice of paste and a generous helping of coconut milk. With tofu puffs, seafood and noodles swimming in a spicy broth, Laksa is comfort food that packs a punch. Now, don't get me wrong, bowls of soup are fantastic, but I tend to eat far too much bread when I have my soup. So this is why I'm going to show you how to create this Laksa soup. This soup has noodles, it has king prawns, it has fish balls, it has tofu and bean sprouts. No need for bread. On my chopping board, I've got everything you're going to need. We have half an onion. This is a galangal. It's a relation of the ginger family. I find galangal a lot more potent though. Lemongrass, some garlic, dried chilies, which I've pre-soaked already, some shrimp paste, some turmeric, some fresh chilies, and of course a little bit of oil because we need to fry this paste off. I'm going to pop this over here this time. All I'm going to do is pre-chop some of the ingredients that are going to go and make this paste, just so my blender doesn't have to go overtime trying to break them into smaller pieces. Garlic can go in as it is. The galangal is quite woody, I find, so I'm going to slice this right down. My onion. My fresh red chilies. My pre-soaked red chilies or dried chilies. This is shrimp paste. This is super salty, super umami, and it is quite unique to this dish. The turmeric is going to give it that lovely yellow colour when we cook the soup. And of course we need some oil just to loosen things off. So I'm going to probably add about 2 or 3 tablespoonfuls of oil. Give everything a good mix and blend away. Give that another quick mix. And that should be nice and smooth now. There's that Laksa paste made ready for this soup. Now I'm going to grab a saucepan and everything happens in here now. Another nice thing about soups actually is it's a one pot dish, so there's not really a lot of washing up after you've washed this. I know that I've laid ingredients out, but you don't have to do this at home. So we're just going to add this Laksa paste now and fry this for about 5 to 10 minutes. While my Laksa is frying off ever so gently, I'm just going to cook them. What happens is as they cook, they open up as a butterfly. Just making sure you keep an eye on your Laksa or the Laksa paste, because we don't want this to burn, but we want to cook out some of that rawness out of the ingredients. I'm now going to chop my fish balls. You can of course use fish cakes. These are crab fish balls that I had in the freezer, so we're using these today. And I'm also just going to chop my puffed tofu into like triangle shapes. So as this is cooking now, I can really smell that lemongrass coming through. And the galangal. I think the galangal's got quite a unique smell as well. It's quite floral, actually. If I'm completely honest, I don't cook a lot of florally kind of food. It's not my thing. I was brought up in a Chinese takeaway and we ate garlic, ginger, spring onion. They were the flavourings. As I'm getting older, my taste buds are changing. And the lemongrass and the galangal and the fresh garlic and the chilies, and especially that lime juice. I think as I've got older, I like that sourness that I get, and this dish is served with wedges of lime juice as well, just like my previous dish of the noodles. I just think it adds that element of freshness. Just before I pour in the stock, just come and have a look at this. So I've cooked off a lot of the extra moisture in the raw ingredients now. You can see as well, even though I added oil, it doesn't look greasy or oily at all. So at this point now, I can add my chicken stock, or you could use vegetable stock if you're making a vegetarian version. In that goes. And what I'm going to do now is bring this up to the boil. This will need to simmer for about 5 minutes before I add the coconut milk. And again, all I'm trying to do is just ensure that I cook out those raw ingredients. So we'll get this up to the boil, which shouldn't take too long. I'm now just going to turn this down to a simmer and just let it simmer away for about 5 to 6 minutes. Time to add our coconut milk. This is full fat. You need the creaminess. If you're dieting, don't bother making this soup. Now to add my king prawns, my fish balls, or my crab balls in my case, and I can pop in my tofu. Now I can pop in my bean sprouts, and lastly, these bean thread noodles. It's spicy, it's creamy, it's umami, it's floral, it's aromatic. And I'm sure when I bite into one of those juicy king prawns and slurp on one of those slippery mung bean noodles, it's going to be the perfect mouthful. Then get some tofu, some crab ball. Where are my king prawns? And then we put on a little bit of coriander just to help liven the dish. And lastly, we're just going to finish off just with a squeeze of lime right over the top. And just for a bit more flavour, we'll pop it in there. Right then, and I am going to get a king prawn this time. Whereas before it was creamy, spicy, umami, aromatic, it's now got a zing. That lime elevates this dish to another level. Here's to the street food hawkers of Singapore, my take on Laksa soup. You've got to give it a go. Laksa is a comforting bowl full of complex flavours and textures, making it a favourite for many and a perfect representation of Singapore's diverse culinary heritage. Our journey through Singapore's hawker centre favourites has brought us from the delicate flavours of Hainanese Chicken Rice to the smoky allure of Char Kway Teow and the spicy embrace of Laxa. each dish has showcased the incredible diversity and rich culinary heritage of Singapore, proving that great things truly come from small packages. As we wrap up this flavourful expedition, I hope you're inspired to explore the diverse tastes of Singapore and bring a touch of its culinary magic into your own cooking. And that's a wrap of this season of Man with a Wok. We've delved deep into the culinary heart of East Asia, from the vibrant streets of Bangkok to the dynamic kitchens of Singapore. Thank you for embarking on this flavourful journey with me. Keep your wok at the ready and your taste buds eager. Until we meet again, keep cooking and exploring the rich tapestry of East Asian flavours. See you next season.